Okay, let's begin. We are up to 19b2 if you're following in the art scroll, Daf Yutet Amud Bet. Now, let's just review very, very quickly. We had the opinion of Abba Shaul. Abba Shaul taught us the idea, Miktzat Hayom Kekulo, that part of a day is like the whole day when it comes to Avelut. And he said this halacha, both with regard to the seventh day, right? Seventh day in the morning, that a little bit is already considered the whole thing. And he also said it with regard to the 30 days. So on the 30th day, if you started the morning already, you're considered in and part of it. Just a aside, we mentioned last week the idea that this idea of half a day, a little bit of the day, kikulo, only applies in the morning, right? And the question was, why is that? Since in halakha, the day starts the night before, why should we assume that that would be only with regards to the daytime? And the answer to that is that the halachot of Avelut are dependent on days. So therefore, until you get into the day part of it, even though it's termed 7 days, but you didn't get a seventh day. What does the pasuk say? Shivat Yamim. Where do we find that? If you remember, we talked about the idea that some of the laws of Avelut are learned from. Anyone remember last week's parasha? Well, now 2 weeks ago, Miriam. That when Miriam was rejected, was nizifa. If yarok yarak avia bepanea, father spit in her face. Yani, if there was a scenario where she caused her father to push her away, it would be shivat yamim, 7 days. So again, it gives that term. So therefore, we look at the day as well. Similar to Berit Milah, where it says Bayom HaShemini. Even though Bayom HaShemini begins the night before, since it says Bayom, so we restrict it to the day. So too over here also Miktzat Yom Kikulo. What do the Chachamim say? Chachamim say, no, we don't hold it as Miktzat Yom Kikulo. Chachamim says Abaye. The Chachamim agree, and this is where we're picking up. Chachamim agree to Abba Shaul when it comes to the scenario of the 8th day of Avelut was Shabbat Erev Regel, right? Shabbat Erev Regel. So the day before the holiday is Shabbat.
Saturday night.
Okay, Saturday night is the holiday. So day 7, which is the last day of Avelut, is Friday. They allowed him to shave before sundown on Erev Shabbat, because if he doesn't shave, he's going to hit the holiday and he's going to come in bad. Okay? So the Chachamim also allowed Miktzat Hayom Kikulo of Abba Shaul in that specific scenario. Okay.
That's the halakha?
And Abaye said that's how. We're going to now come and see. It's literally what we're picking up. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Halakha ke Abba Shaul biyom shib'ah. The halakha is like Abba Shaul on the 7th day, that will cut half the day on the 7th day. Umodim Chachamim l'Abba Shaul, and the Chachamim agree to Abba Shaul, biyom shiloshim damir miktzat yom kikulo. The Chachamim agree on the 30th day that the shloshim ends once you started the day miktzat yom kikulo. Okay? Clear so far? Yeah. So who are we holding like? Abba Shaul on 7 days, cut early. We hold Chachamim agree to Abba Shaul on 30th day, so everyone agrees on that. So basically in 7 and in 30, halakha is cut miktzat yom kikulo. Rava says, no, halakha ke Abba Shaul biyom shloshim. We hold like Abba Shaul on the 30th day to cut. But, ve'en halakha ke Abba Shaul biyom shiva. And the halakha is not like Abba Shaul on the 7th day. So on the 7th day you have to wait, with the exception of Erev Shabbat, Erev Hag, that they were modeh, okay? But in the regular 7th day, the halakha is not like Abba Shaul. Now, just to be clear, Rava, in saying this, also tips his cards that he disagrees that the Chachamim agree with Abba Shaul on, on Shiloshim. Why? Because he said the halakha is like Abba Shaul on the 30th day. If everyone agrees, then it's not like Abba Shaul.
Right, you could have said Abba Shaul and the Chachamim.
Exactly, he could have said like Abaye said, Umodim Chachamim, And the Chachamim agree with Abba Shaul. When Abaye says it, sets it up, and he says it's always cut early, he says 7 days like Abba Shaul, 30 days, everybody agrees. Rava says, no. 7 days, halacha is not like Abba Shaul. 30 days, halacha is like Abba Shaul. That obviously means that 30 days, Chachamim don't agree to Abba Shaul, but we hold like Abba Shaul anyway. So we're lenient on the 30th day. Comes Nahardai Amire, halacha ke Abba Shaul, bezu ubazu. Halacha is like Abba Shaul by 7 days and by 30 days. Who's Nahardai going like? Nobody. Technically,
they agree to what Abba Shaul says.
They agree to who?
Both the Nehadeya say the halacha follows Abba Shaul, both in this case and that case.
So which of the three opinions that said that as well? That we always cut short? Abaye, Rava, or Nahardai? We have three opinions in the Amoraim. Abaye says you cut short like Abba Shaul on 7, everyone agrees on 30. So basically you're always cutting short. Rava says you don't cut short on 7,
only on the Shiloshim.
Only on the Shiloshim, halakha is like Abba Shaul. Nahardai says halakha is you always cut short like Abba Shaul. Sounds like
7:30.
First opinion, Abaye. No. Why? What I just told you. Abaye says we hold like Abba Shaul on 7, on 30 there's no disagreement. Nahardai says we hold like Abba Shaul by both, meaning that there's obviously a disagreement on 30.
Yes.
So the wild item is Naharda is like a mixture of Abaye and Rava. They hold halacha like Abaye, you always cut short. But their opinion about the machloket between Abba Shaul and the Chachamim is like Rava. That the Chachamim never agreed to 30 days like Abba Shaul.
Why does it say that they concede to Abba Shaul's position on the Shiloshim?
Why?
So what did they say that they concede to? Abaye says the rabbis, the Chachamim, concede.
Yeah. So that
they did not agree, but they
so
agree.
Naharda is saying no, they didn't concede like Rava, but the halacha is like Abba Shaul anyway. You got it? So we have basically a three-way machloket in practicality, but in reality, the halacha of Abaye and the halacha of Naharda. What's happening?
Heat it up.
Okay. Halacha of Abaye, halacha of Naharda is winds up practically being the same.
What's the alternative to not agreeing on the 30 day? That it's not cutting? It's going to
full day.
Full day, yeah.
But the 30
30 day, you have to wait till the nighttime, and then your avelut ends.
Okay, versus?
Versus the second you started the day, you're able to already go for it. Yeah.
Full day versus the half day.
Yeah.
That's where they're on the 30
arguing,
day.
yeah.
Whoa.
Okay?
Ending the 30 days.
Yeah, so if you hold that we don't say half a day is a whole day for 30 days, and then the whole 30 days is on the table.
So they went over
the whole 30th day.
They went over the holiday.
No holiday. No holidays here.
This is clean.
This is clean. This is 7 and 30. What?
Agree with the holiday, breaking the...
That the Chachamim agree in that special case of the 8th day, falling out, Shabbat, Erev holiday, they all agree on that.
30's over, 7's over, everything's over.
7's over.
7's over. 30 starts, we said, right?
Yeah.
But why can't the logic
Yes,
of
yes,
7 days also be the same as 30? If you already have the 7-day logic, why can't it apply
It's
to
also
the 30?
stricter.
This is a good question.
7's also stricter.
He's asking now, so Joe is upping the ante. You're asking, if the day breaks on 7, so why wouldn't we say they should break on 30?
Because it breaks on 7.
No, that half a day.
It breaks on 7.
So, therefore?
Therefore, you want a full day for the last day.
Oh, okay, so he's saying...
That's a little...
I like that.
Okay, maybe.
I like
No, not how you saying counterintuitive? You fought this point last time.
I'm saying it's stricter.
Mikanu Lekan, he just said Mikanu Lekan is difficult. Now you went with it.
You're at 29 now with you.
Right? He's saying that maybe you need the 30 because you had the 7. I'm going to give you one other item. There's a logic to say on each side why you should agree or disagree. We said already earlier. Maybe the reason why we allow you to get away with half a day being a full day is because the laws of Avelut are strict. So we're letting you off.
No.
But 30 days, they're not so strict.
Just saying,
Like, what's the big deal? One more day?
And then what's the logic the other way? that on a lighter item, you could cut the day, not on a heavy item. So each side has its logic as to why you would or would not say miktzat. Okay, now the Gemara says, Amar Shmuel, halacha k'divrei hamekel ba'ever. Shmuel says, let me explain, one second, let me just do one line and then we'll come back to it. Yeah. Shmuel says, why do we hold, what's Naharda saying? How come they ruled the way they ruled? Halacha k'divrei hamekel be'avel. We already came across this concept. When it comes to avelut, if there's a more lenient opinion, you're allowed to take the more lenient opinion when it comes to avelut, okay? So Shmuel is saying, therefore, since I have a machloket, Abba Shaul, Chachamim, even though normally, who would win one against everybody? Everybody. The majority usually wins. Why do we hold like Abba Shaul against all the Chachamim? The answer is, since there's an opinion that says that in Avelut, we go with it. So Naharda understood there was a machloket here, there was a machloket there, but we always go Divrei HaMekel in what's it called? In Avelut. Now, I want to just point out one last piece on this. There's two ways to solve a machloket. One way is, you're right. Another way is, I don't know if you're right, but the law always favors
the easier route.
You caught the difference? Yeah. What Shmuel is telling you is that Naharda is not holding like Abba Shaul. They're just holding a general principle here. A general principle that when there's two opinions in Avelut, unless we have a ruling that says one, we always go Divrei HaMekel. They didn't rule like Abba Shaul, they just had that old ruling.
Different reasoning.
Exactly. That's very important here. Yeah. You guys understand that?
You come to the
They're
same
using a different
conclusion.
method.
I got it.
But they have a different, they're not saying it's right.
Let me give you the example. Let me give you the example in law. You have two opinions in sitting in a courtroom. The judge could rule like A or B.
Right.
What happens if the judge doesn't rule like either?
Precedent.
But there's a default, not precedent, because precedent's part of the ruling.
There's another item.
What if there's a default that in a scenario where we're landlocked, it always reverts back to the mother, like custody cases. You could have a case where you rule like the mother, or you rule like the father, or we have no ruling. So what's the default ruling when we have no ruling? Goes to the mother. Neither one won the case. But because there's a default, that's exactly what this case is.
No, but
it's very different.
It's the end game. The ruling is the end game.
Technically, the ruling is the end game, but over here, the point is, neither one won in court. What's the nafkamina? The nafkamina would be for an appeal in a case of law.
Oh, because I'll tell you in a case of
go
law.
ahead. Give it to us.
Which is what I wanted to say. I'll give you a Supreme Court, for instance. Okay, you could have the majority agree to a particular decision, but you may have one of the majority or two of the majority join in a concurring opinion, which is different than the main logic of the main opinion.
Okay.
But they come to the same conclusion.
Right. Different basis.
Okay.
Similar to this.
But in that case, they're still ruling like one.
They're
majority
they're voting yes or no, whatever.
You see, that's my point over here. Over here, they are not agreeing to Abba Shaul. That's the critical part here that I'm trying to underline. They are not ruling like Abba Shaul. What are they saying? That we always go with the more lenient opinion in Avelut. We're not commenting on half a day, not half a day, should you, shouldn't you, stricter, not stricter. We're just saying if there's a lenient opinion, we're going to go with it. You see the difference though? Yeah. That's why I'm...
reasoning for why they
yes.
say it.
And I think that there's practical hashlachot to this as well.
So in Avelut, if you follow the half a day thing, or you get up in the morning, you're up. Let's say you just keep until the Erev. You take a little high level of, I'm not going to cut it off at 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to continue to Erev Shabbat. Is it a wrong thing to do?
So that's interesting.
Is it a chet?
That's interesting. Because when it comes to the holiday, the whole gizerah of the holiday was shelo yavo menuva lachag. You should not come haggard to the holiday.
You got to prepare for the holiday.
So the problem is that you came haggard into the holiday. Clearly, if with the whole Gemara we're learning is about that.
A half hour before and you go and you shave and you're ready for the holiday.
No, we didn't say half hour before.
No, we said get up in the morning.
We said get up in the morning.
But I'm saying you don't get up in the morning. You stay.
You have the whole day.
O'clock.
You have the whole day.
Okay with
Technically, yeah.
Rabbi Yosef.
No, I'm just trying to say
Now.
the person doesn't really know. Because it's not.
Wait, hold on. Let me quantify. Ready for this?
Need a rabbi.
Let me quantify for this. Ready for this? Because this is beautiful. First of all, let's say you didn't shave in the morning. You could technically have the whole day. There's another halakha that a person's really not supposed to shave after chatzot, erev the holiday. You're really supposed to shave and take a haircut before chatzot. So ideally, you get up in the morning. Chatzot is midday. Halachic midday. It depends. Depends on the day. But the exact midday point between evening and, between sunrise and yeah. So technically, you should really be shaving in the morning before that point. Let me just add one little piece. Remember I said, it's a little curious that the Gemara said, when the Avelim when the people, comforters are coming to visit you, they got up. It doesn't say in the morning. It says when the people coming to comfort.
Right.
I asked it, that doesn't say, that's not Mitzat Hayom. Why do we, throw them out, ask them to leave, they leave by themselves.
Yeah.
In the halakha, there's a big machloket, if you're allowed to shave before they leave. Asks even the halakha, Shulchan Aruch, the Shach, what happens if no one comes to visit? If you're telling me that I have to wait until the comforters get up, what happens if no comforters came? According to one opinion, you have to wait the whole day. Because no one came, there was no nichum avelim on that day. So one opinion says, now you have to wait. Other opinion says, no. We make you wait the amount of time that it would have taken. You came home from shul. How much time? Yeah, assuming someone would have come, how long would it have taken? You wait a little bit and then by the way, that's the minhag.
Is that why the rabbi comes to pick you up?
Yeah.
For that reason?
No.
So there's a comforter to get you up?
You should know, I've wondered the same thing. Because I know that there's a ma'amid, so there's someone that needs to stand the guy up. So we would have to do that, regardless.
But it is like a declaration.
Someone would have to come to stand you up regardless, okay? Now, but let me just point this out. Let's say nobody came, then it would be a machloket poskim if you could still get up early. What do we do now? What's the halacha? We wait until the seventh day, they pray, the person sits for a few minutes, the people sit with him, and then they stand them up. You don't need a rabbi to stand you up, but just sometimes the people need a rabbi to ask a question, so they try to make sure there's always a rabbi to pick them up, and also to say the special pesukim that are needed that end the avelut. Okay, so but the point I was making with this is that on erev Hag also it should be the same thing. It's not just that you get up in the morning. Technically, it should be after the avelim, after the nichum avelim ends. Or, according to the other opinion, after the amount of time it would have taken for the comforters to come and leave, however long that is.
You don't need to shave. You have clean. You don't grow hair.
Yeah.
Well, you're a rabbi, you have a beard.
Oh, you have hair. The issue.
You would trim it.
So now the whole day thing with getting up with the chatzit, it all disappears over?
No, because that was only with regards to shaving. The laws of avelut end with that. So all the laws of avelut end with that. Bathing, wearing new clothes, all those things end at that point. So it's all those things. The only thing we need to talk about over here is shaving, because in many of these cases, we're talking about the chag. You're allowed to take a shower on the chag. Right? So the urgency here is the shaving. Now, Joe's asking a great question. Let's say the Chachamim said you could shave on Friday because of the chag, because we don't want you to go in. Did they allow us to do all the other things also, which I could really do tomorrow? Like, did they allow us bathing? Did they allow us clean clothes? Did they allow us, is that everything, or is that just this? So we'll have to see as well with regards to that. Says the Gemara like this. Sheloshim Yom. Okay, now we talked about this idea that not only is Avelut 7 days, which we had the pasuk for, Avelut is really, what's it called? Till the 30th day. Gemara says, where'd you get 30 days from? Where'd that come from? Gemara says, Shiloshim Yominalan, Yalif Pera Minazir. We learned Pera, we actually already saw this in the Gemara before. Pera, that the person grows his hair from a Nazir. K'tiv Hachat says over here, Rashechem al Tifrau, okay? After Nadav and Avihu died on the day of the inauguration of the temple, so Moshe says to Aaron, don't, al tifrau, don't let the hair of your head grow. Don't tear your clothing. He was telling them not to be noheg avelut. Uchtiv hatam, and he says over there, gadel pera se'arosho, that a person by Nazir, he has to let the hair on his head grow. Mal halad shiloshim, just like over there, shiloshim, it's 30 days by Nazir. It's 30 days. Afkan shiloshim, also over here is 30 days. What does that mean? It's 30 days. What does it mean that Nazir is 30 days? A Nazir is however long you say you want to be a Nazir. So what do you mean it's 30 days a Nazir? The Gemara says, how do you know in Nazir it's 30 days? Gemara says, Rav Matna says, Stam Nazirut Shiloshim Yom. When you have a Nazirut, which is undeclared, it's for 30 days. What does that mean? Let's say a guy says, I'm a Nazir for 7 days. How long is he Nazir for?
7 days.
I'm a Nazir for a year. How long? I'm a Nazir my whole life. Whole life. Who do you have that? By? That's called Nazirut Shimshon. His parents were told by the Malach, he's going to be a Nazir his whole life. Okay? So, there's a question, by the way, about Shemuel also. If Shemuel also was a long time Nazir.
Really?
Yeah. You want to hear? Fascinating, actually. Let's take a 10-second detour.
Nazir meaning what, exactly?
Nazir means a monk. There's 3 things a Nazir can't do. He can't drink wine. He can't... Yeah,
so
if he's a forever Nazir.
If he's a forever Nazir.
If he's a forever Nazir. He grows his hair and he can't, what's it called? And he can't come into contact with a dead person like a Kohen.
Okay, so what's
But the Nazir has different laws than the Kohen. The Nazir can't even become Tameh to his own family members. He's stricter than a Kohen Nazir.
So what's the concept of Nazir?
What's the theory of it?
What's the theory of why a Nazir? A Nazir is declaring, I'm going to go for the holy life. I'm going to live an elevated
Why
life.
isn't that a big rabbi?
It is. It's a huge rabbi. The Pasuk says that the person, a Nazir, the word Nazir comes from the word, says Ibn Ezra, Nezer, which means a crown. He's wearing God's crown on his head.
So it's also just a high-level rabbi?
That's not a rabbi.
But it's not, so...
It's not a rabbi. It's a person who decides they want to live an elevated life. Now, most Nazir is not your whole life. You take it on for 7 days, 30 days. The Gemara says a person saw a sotah drink the waters, he should declare Nazirut. Why? Because you witnessed debauchery, you witnessed debasement, the breaking down of family values, of moral values. Yeah, that's had an effect on you. You should now up your level for a little bit to kind of reset yourself. Isn't that interesting?
If the sotah explodes or if the sotah passes?
It says, Haro'eh sotah be'kil kula. That's what it says. Okay? Now, the concept, that's why the parasha of Nazir immediately follows the parasha of Sotah. Mm-hmm. So let's just be clear. So what does it say by Shemuel? It says by Shemuel, Umora al yale al rosho. And what is Mora al yale al rosho? More could mean a razor. So when his mother, Chana, said, this son, I'm going to bring him to the temple, and he's going to be this, and he's going to serve at the temple, and he's going to be there with the Kohanim, Umoraya ale el rosho. And he should not have on his head fill in the blank, Mora. One opinion says, a razor. The other opinion says, fear. Fear should never be on his head. He should never fear anyone. That's the question. Gemara says, but he was afraid of Shaul.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. Not all the time, but one of the times, it says, he says, what, I'm going to go tell Shaul that, this, he's going to kill me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Shemuel, go with the 4 donkey, with the cattle, you'll be able to tell him you're coming for something else. Es Chachamim, Mora al Rosho, you see he was afraid. It must mean Nazir. Now, what's the machloket? What the machloket is, when Chana said, Mora ayale al rosho, what did she mean? Chana, was she praying he should never be scared? Or was she prophesizing he'll never be scared? Chana, we know, was one of the 7 Neviot. If she was prophesizing, then it can't mean that he won't be afraid, because you see, he was afraid. If she was praying for it. Okay, and he wasn't afraid. He was afraid one time in his life. It doesn't mean that that's not its interpretation. So the question is, what was Chana doing in that sentence? Thereby, if you find one case where he was afraid, it doesn't disprove that the prayer was about fear. Just interestingly enough, I just saw this Shabbat, that's why I thought it's relevant.
So a guy
now,
Cherim
yeah,
is excommunicado.
Yeah.
He does Nazir for 30 days to get out of excommunicado? Is
No.
that one of the cleanups?
No.
Too high? It's too high Nazir for that? You can get out lower level.
Nazir is its own
know what I
item.
mean, though.
Nazir is its own item with its own
You see
halachot.
like it's a...
There are some similarities. There are some similarities, but it's very different. One is a growing of hair because of mourning. One is a growing of hair because of Kedusha. Okay, so they're coming from different places. You can't turn your hair growth of Nazir, which is a punishment, and then parlay it into, Kedusha. It's not what it is.
The Nazir hair growing is a punishment?
No, the Nazir is Kedusha, the Nizirut guy, the Cherem guy. Okay. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Matna. Rav Matna says, Stam Nizirut. So what if the guy doesn't say 7 days, doesn't say a year, doesn't say forever. He says, I'm going to be a Nazir. How long is that?
30 days.
Oh, says the Gemara, Maitama, it's 30 days. Amar Kera, Kodesh, Kadosh Yeh. He should be holy, this Nazir. Yehiyeh, begematria tilatin havu.
Wow.
Yehiyeh is the gematria 30. Yud is 10, Hey 5, and then again Yud, and then Hey. So 15 and 15 is 30. I always use this Gemara to prove to people that we, in our generation, have a misunderstanding as to what gematria is. You have people, they're like, okay, cute. Gematria, I don't like gematrias. You see, gematria over here is used in the Gemara to teach you a halacha. And not only does the halacha teach you Nizirut 30 days, this gematria, everybody who ever had shloshim and arayat who's making fun of gematria is rohi. You're 30 days over here. You know where you got it from? From the gematria. So obviously not all gematriot were created equal. You sat there and you made up whatever gematria you want, and it says, this, that, and the other, and that's the gematria. Yankees will win the championship. That's pushing numbers into numbers. When a person is using the Torah language,
Back in thing, it's the thing.
it's the thing, exactly.
You're not saying, oh, by the way, the number is this. No,
And
the number is this. That's why. It's
my
30
favorite line, by the way, is the line of the Stipler Gaon. That was Reb Chaim Kanievsky's father. You know what he said? He said a gematria is as important as the person who said it.
Very profound.
Very profound. Yeah, we're not just playing games here. You're not just throwing numbers together. When it comes from a person who understands the Torah's language, what the Torah is trying to teach, and he's telling you that there's a confluence between these two things, that's coming from his Torah. Okay, let's continue. So, where are we? We are, yes, Nathan?
On Wednesday, you had it with Joshua and the 50, that he wasn't of the highest level, that he was of the 50s.
Very good. He was of the Hemma that we said. That's from the Ba'alaturim. That's not in the Gemara. This is an example in the Gemara itself. But yes, that's actually correct. Yoshua was a leader of 50 because they are Anashim. They were who? They were people. Hemma, says the Pasuk. They. Hemma is hey, and mem. 5, 5, and 40. So that's how you know they were leaders of 50, excuse me. They were leaders of 50 in the hierarchy of leaders of 10, leaders of 50, leaders of 100, leaders of 1,000. Okay, let's continue. So we explained so far this concept of Abba Shaul and the ideas of Miktzat Hayom Kikulo. Amar Rav Huna בר רב יהושע, הכל מודים כשחד שלישי שלו להיות ערב הרגל, right? שעשו ברחיצה עד הערב. What happens if the person has his third day? What do we say about the first 3 days? Excellent. Hardest levels of Avelut are the first 3. So what happens if the third day of Avelut comes out Erev Regel? Halacha is that he has to wait until the nighttime to be able to do it. Now, we have this concept, if you remember, that whatever time the holiday comes in, it's going to break the Shiva, correct? Mm-hmm. So if the Shiva is going to be broken on day 3, why don't we say Miktzat Hayom Kikulo? Let the guy do whatever he's going to do tonight, let him do it in the morning. Okay, Rav Huna Bere, the Rav Yoshua is making a hidush that on the third day, right, then which is the most intense levels of Shiva, we're not going to break and make it earlier because a half a day, Miktzat Yom Kikulo, we're not going to do that. Not because it's too short per se, because then you would not have done the 3 days.
And then you have to resume it after.
No, it breaks it.
If you did,
So-
if after 2 days.
So let's say the fourth day is the holiday, meaning the full 3 days is going to be over by that night. So you'd imagine, Miktzat Yom Kikulo, since anyway it's going to be broken tonight, I should do it earlier. The answer says, Rav Huna Ber Davika, no, we're not going to do that. Ber Yeshua. Why? Because you will not have had at least those 3 full days, okay? Now, when I told you, Ad HaErev, what are you talking about, Erev? Erev is the holiday. You're not allowed to wash on the holiday. Rechitza.
And you say you really can't shave after chatzot, so it's a lot of
Right, contradiction.
situations. here.
Yeah, a lot of different items.
Skips over.
Well, first of all, you realize he didn't mention shaving.
No shame.
He talked about bathing.
Bathing.
Obviously.
When is
Bathe.
he
Bathe
making
on-
you bathe?
On the holiday.
Ba'erev, on the holiday. Well, you're not allowed to bathe on the holiday.
Cold water.
Excellent. Answer is that the Chachamim, when they talked about bathing, were only ever talking about Mayim Hamim, hot water.
That's the bathing.
That's bathing, the Isur of Rechitza. Yeah. So what would the guy do? We'll tell him to bathe in cold water, Ba'erev, on the holiday.
Obviously can't shave.
Sorry?
Obviously he can't
Beginning
shave.
of cold.
Same concept.
30 days anyway.
Same concept.
No, it's saying the regel ends the thing.
Right. Normally we would
You would be able
say,
to shave that day before the regel. This is 3 days bathing description, no haircut description.
now, what happens, by the way? What would happen, by the way, if we're talking about the fourth day?
You're
I
okay,
would
you
assume-
finished the 3 already.
I would assume
Obviously.
You're okay.
If he tells you 3 no, because you didn't get at least 3 difficult,
You need to make the 3.
that tells
that's the
you,
minimum.
yeah, that tells you that if it was day 4 that was going to get broken, where it was going to break the Shiva, then you'd be able to bathe already in the middle of the day.
And
We would say,
obviously,
Miktzat Yom Kikulo.
Obviously 1, 2, and 3, definitely not. Obviously, because he went to 3.
Correct. It went to 3. So 1 and 2 is part of 3. 1, 2, and 3 are all part of 3. Day 4, it sounds like from the Gemara that we would already use Miktzat Yom Kikulo because the holiday is going to break it. Okay. Now, says the Gemara. Amar Rav Nechemia Bired Rav Yehoshua. Rav Yehoshua said, Ashkachtinu le Rav Papi ve Rav Papa. He found Rav Papi and Rav Papa. They hung around together just in order to have, to have people confuse them. The Yatvi, they were sitting, V'ka'ari, by the way, the head of Hatzalah United and the head of Hatzalah in Israel, 2 different organizations. One is Eli Bir and the other one is Eli Bin. I think just as a...
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's like Rav Papi and Rav Papa, okay? I think Rav Papi was just Latin American. Okay. The Yatvi, what other Gemara class you're going to get a comment like that? The Yatvi, they were sitting together, the Ka'amri halacha ki Rav Huna. And they said halacha was like Rav Huna Bered Rav Yehoshua. So both of them, not only do we have Rav Huna Bered Rav Yehoshua, but we find that other rabbis also were posek like this concept that the 3 days, even though you're going to break the Shiva, you don't cut it earlier because of Miktzat Yom Kikulo. Some people say the Gemara a little bit different with a different approach. In his record, all 3 of them were sitting together. And they were saying, what's the difference? In one opinion, it's Rav Yehoshua, Rav Huna Bered Rav Yehoshua who said it, and other rabbis who agreed with it. In his version, all 3 were sitting together and they all said the same halakha. Okay? It was stated by all 3 of them. Okay, let's continue. So, Abaya asked from Rabba, excuse me. The Rabba is in the parentheses. In the brackets is Rabba. Abaya asked from Rabba. Kivaro baregel. What's the halacha? Let's say he buried the person on the festival. So what do we say thus far? If the guy had Shiva from before the holiday breaks it. What if the person passed away on the holiday, buried on the holiday? What happens to Shiva? Postponed. You have to keep it still? Yes. It starts after the holiday. That's what we learned. Kivaro baregel. If he now buried him, the relative on the regel olelo leminyan shiloshim or en regel olelo leminyan shiloshim. In the other case, remember, Let's say the guy buried, he was keeping Shiva from before the holiday. He counts 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, now the holiday broke it. You know what, let's give you an even better day, simpler. He kept 6 days before the holiday. The 7th day, the holiday broke.
Okay. He's done.
So he's done. He skips that last day. That's what we said, okay?
Then we said
Now he finishes the holiday. How many days is it since burial?
8 days, 7 days.
Right, well, it depends on how long the holiday is, but let's say it's 8 days, okay? 8 days plus 6 days, right? Or 7, depending on whatever it was. But if it broke it, that would be 14 days. How many days is the Shiloshim?
30.
Forget the Shiva. The Shiva was broken, we don't come back to it, we said, right? But there's 30 days. So do we say the guy didn't sit Avelut for 8 days? So we should count 6. Now, after the holiday, continue. 7, 8, 9, 10.
No, but we said we suspended.
Do we say, yes, this is, no, suspending
You don't freeze
is,
30 days. You don't.
1 second, we're mixing a lot of terms here. If the person passed on the holiday, what do? We defer. You count 30 days from after. What happens if you broke Shiva in the middle? Now I'm after the holiday. So I have 6 days and 8 days. That's 14 days. Am I 14 days into the 30? Or am I 6 days into 30? Because 8 days of it, I had no Avelut. Because there's no Avelut in the holiday.
You're 14 days.
14 days. So Abaye says, does it count or does it not count? Is it 14 days or 6 days? That's the question he asked from Rabbah.
Didn't we say that the 30 days starts after the Avelut of the 7?
Isn't it contingent upon the
No,
Shiva?
it's 7.
And then it starts 30.
No, then starts 8.
8.
So there's 23 more days.
The normal circumstance?
In normal circumstances, 7 plus 23 included.
Okay, yeah.
So now you had this holiday smack in the middle. So the holiday, it broke. If the holiday broke the Shiva, do you count it or you don't count it as part of the 30 days? Mahdi, he's asking the question. Okay? Says the Gemara, Amale eno ole. No, doesn't count.
It's frozen.
Yeah. Now remember, this is the case.
That's
Remember?
if there's no Shiva.
This is the case of no Shiva.
Yeah.
Oh, no Shiva at all.
In a case of deferred,
Oh, this is when he dies on the holidays.
Kivaro beregel, what's the halakha? Liminyan Shiva, sorry, I skipped a line. Liminyan Shiva lo kemi baile. I have no question on the Shiva itself. De lo na'aga mitzvat Shiva beregel. There's no halachot of Shiva on the holiday. So therefore, it gets deferred. Ki kame baile, liminyan sheloshim. I'm asking with regards to the sheloshim. De kanaga mitzvat shloshim beregel. Because the 30-day restrictions, a person could keep on the regel. Because it's more mild element of what's it called? Of mourning. So the things of the Shiva, they bang up against the holiday. So therefore they're not kept. But the other elements, the 30 days, which have smaller, we're not talking about parents, which have 30 days, so you could keep the 30-day items on the holiday. Okay? So
therefore, you don't
So therefore,
start.
does it diminish from the 30 days? Okay? The Gemara says, you understand this question?
Sure.
Deferred Avelut. So the guy did not start Avelut yet. But the question was, maybe I could count in a weird way. I'm counting 30 before I counted 7.
Because that's similar restrictions.
Because there's similar restrictions.
On the festival.
Yes. So, but whoever heard of counting the 30 before the 7? Abaye's question is, maybe we should do that. Okay? Gemara says, Amale eno ole. No. We start counting the 30 days and the 7 days only after the holiday. Et asked him a question. Hakoveret meto. Shnei yamim kodem haregel. If a person buries 2 days before the holiday, moneh chamisha yamim achar haregel. He counts 5 Shiva days after the holiday is over. Umelachto naasit ayidei acherim. Whenever he needs to do melacha, other people have to do melacha for him like a avel. Ve'avadav ve'shivchotav osim b'tzina betoch beto. And the workers in his house are able to do things b'tzina quietly if nobody sees them. Ve'en rabim mitaskim imo. And people don't come and they don't deal with him, so to speak. They don't come and do public manners of interaction. Okay? Says the Gemara, yeah? Shikvar nitasku bo beregel. Why? Because they already came to give him some level of condolences during the holiday. So in other words, let's say we break the Shiva on the holiday, still people are allowed to say, wish you well, long life, etc., etc. So therefore, kila lo shel davar, the rule of the thing is, kol shu mishum evel, regel mafsiko, anything which is because of avelut, the holiday breaks because you're not allowed to have mourning on the holiday. Chol mishum iske rabim en aregel mafsiko. Anything which has to do with the rabim, which is the public coming to do the comforting of the mourning, that a person is allowed to do even on the holiday. Okay,
during the shloshim.
That is allowed. So he asked him a question from here. Says the Gemara.
Next page.
Says the Braita. Excuse me. Kivaro. How long will we go to 10:40? When do we go for? I forgot. Let's go to
10:45.
We usually go to 10:45. Okay. Kivaro shilosha yamim b'sof haregel. What happened if the burial took place 3 days before the end of the holiday? Moneh shiva achar haregel. Then he counts 7 after the festival, after the holiday. Why? Because it happened on the holiday. Arba'a yamim rishonim rabim mitaskim bo. The first 4 days, right? Arba'a yamim rishonim Rabim mitaskim bo. They're allowed to pay him condolences. Shilosha yamim aharonim and Rabim mitaskim bo. On the last 3 days, they don't come and give him the condolences. Why? Because they already did that during the last 3 days. Rishonim. So remember, right? What did we say? The guy is on the 3 days before the holiday was over, right? He buried him. What do we say is not allowed on the holiday? Avelut. What do we say is allowed on the holiday? Condolence calls. Okay, shiva call. So they're able to come. So now what happens that on 3 days of the holiday, you had no avelut, no mourning, but you had condolence calls. So then says the Braita.
And we said it's part of the 30.
Sorry?
We said it's part of the 30. The 3 holiday days.
Don't get mixed up with the 30. No, don't bring 30 in. We're only talking now about the 7, okay? So 3 days before the end of the holiday, buries the person. Okay. The person, they come and give him condolence calls on the first 3 days. So now he's counting 4 more days after the holiday. That's what the Braita is talking about. We talked about this, right? We talked about deferring the whole thing. This Braita is obviously not working with that, okay? So now he's counting 4 days of Avelut, 7 days of Avelut after. Says the Braita, the first 4 days of the 7, people come and visit and give condolence calls. The last 3 days, right? They do not come and give him condolence calls. Why?
Because they visited him.
Because they gave him 3 days on the holiday. So there's 7 days of condolence calls. If we allowed you to do condolence calls on the holiday, so then we start the Shiva after, even though you have 4 days after the holiday of Avelut and condolence calls, and then followed by 3 more days of mourning, you don't have to have the last 3 days of condolence calls, because I already had them on the holiday.
But you're still in mourning.
Huh?
3 days.
You're still in the halachot of mourning. Why? Because I didn't have Avelut on the holiday. Right. And it was nidche, it was deferred.
So the burial occurs on the holiday.
Yeah.
Right? Burial occurs on the holiday.
On the holiday, yeah.
The first 3 days of the holiday, people visit you. They're allowed to visit you. No.
We're talking about before.
It was buried 3 days before the end of the holiday. So nothing happened the first 4 days of the holiday.
Okay, so during the holiday.
Yeah, let's say the guy dies on day 3, basically it's instead of speaking that way, it was on day 5 or whatever. They buried him on day 5. Day 5, day 6, day 7, is there Avelut on the holiday? No. Can they pay condolence calls? Yes. So now what happens? When do we start Avelut? After the holiday. Right. So after the holiday is over, how many days are we counting? 7. Because the Avelut is deferred. Right. Says the Braita, but on the condolence calls, I'm already 3 ahead of the game. So I only do 4 days of condolence calls.
But why would you let condolence during the holiday if the idea is to hold the Avelut till after the holiday?
Because it's the elements of mourning, of sadness that we didn't allow. And that, right, because the holiday is an obligation to be joyous. I can't not shave. I can't not bathe. I can't be wearing the same old clothes, ripped clothes. So all of the things that are mourning, the holiday doesn't allow. But the condolence, which is not a thing of mourning, it's not sadness, that a person is allowed. In fact, if anything, it lifts the person up.
Hold that?
Again, this is what the Breita is saying.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't think so.
This is what the Breita is saying. Okay.
Okay.
Let's continue. Says the Gemara.
Papi and Papa.
Says the Gemara. This Rav Papi is very, he's very happy right now. He just sold his soda for 1.7 billion to Pepsi. Okay, says Viregel Olelo. Says the Breita. Okay, so we understand now that with regards to Shiv'ah, it doesn't count for Shiv'ah. We don't take off from the Shiva days from the holiday. Now the Gemara says like this: My love asefa, viregel olelo. Now at the end of the Breita, it says one last line, and the holiday counts for him. What? We just said it doesn't count for him. So what are we saying now? Regel olelo. The answer is it must be talking about not the 7 days. It must be talking about the Shiloshim. Okay, that's why I didn't want you to go to Shloshim yet, because we had a conversation about the 7 days in the Breita, right? Then the Breita says at the end, and the holiday olelo. What must it mean? It must be talking about Shloshim. My love asefa. Aren't we talking here now about the last 30 days? Okay, and that's talking about a scenario where the burial happened on the holiday. So Rabbah who said that the holiday does not count for 30 days. It's not, the Breita is not going like him. The Gemara says, Lo, Aresha. We're talking about the first part of the Breita. The Breita says that if your person died 2 days before, so technically you have now 5 days of Avedut after the holiday. Right? That's what we're left with. On that, the Breita says, Viregel olelo. The holiday counts for the other 5. To tell you, right, that when in a case, not for the other 5, in a case where the person started the Shiv'ah 2 days, then the festival broke the Shiv'ah, those days now count for Shloshim days.
It didn't break the 30 days.
It didn't. No, it counts. Doesn't break, but it counts for the 30 days.
So in other words, the first
let's get our terms clear. Let's get our terms clear because we're using different words. Deferred means it doesn't touch it at all. It just pushes it off. So it doesn't count for days and it doesn't break. Break means that it broke it and it ends it. Okay? What the Breita is talking about is neither breaking, right, nor deferring in the Resha. Because in the Resha, the guy started 2 days already. Yeah? So, and then it told us in the Breita that he then counts 5 at the end. So it didn't break it, because if it did, then we wouldn't be doing the 5 more. But it counts towards the 30. The Regel Olelo counts towards the 30 that we're going to be doing. However, Rabbah's case was not when you started counting. Rabbah's case, where he said it doesn't count, is when the person passed away on the holiday itself. Everyone understand? Yeah? So one more time. Rabbah will tell you, if a person passes away on the holiday, okay, the whole thing is deferred.
7 days.
And 30.
And the 30.
Nothing starts. So
Nothing starts. Abaye's question is, I get that you didn't start the 7, but could you start the 30 from now? No. Could you pre-start the 30
They
before?
want the 7 as part of the 30 under all circumstances. That's what they're saying.
No.
More than that. They're saying that on the holiday, I could keep 30-day laws. Let me keep 30 days laws instead of keeping 7-day laws.
Okay.
You got that? Yeah. Says Rabbah, no, it doesn't work that way. How about the other way around? What if instead of passing away on the holiday, person passed away before the holiday, so I started with the laws of Shiva, I counted 2 plus 7 is 9. I'm still going to have to count 5 more days afterwards of Shiva. But I'm going to count in the extra 7 days that I had to shorten the Shiva. So my 30 days, the Shloshim, thank you for correcting me. The 30 days is now going to be how long? 30 total days, not 37 days.
Right. That's what I said. The 7
Well,
within
not
the 30.
37, it would have been 35 days. Right?
They're saying
2,
7 counts in the 30.
2, 7, and then
No, 2.
and then 28.
2, then the 7 holiday days.
If the 7 don't count, it's extra 7 days. Okay?
But they're saying no.
So he's saying it doesn't count. When would it count? It would count if I started before. So if I started before, instead of having 2, 7, and then 28, which is 30,
Why is it 2 and 7? It's 2, you're done.
2 plus 28, yeah? But you now have 7 days in the middle that don't count. So the guys Shiloshim, if they would not count, how long would it be?
It would be longer.
It would be 30
And then 7
plus 7.
holiday days.
Yeah? So you have 37 days. Since Rava is telling you that it does count, what do you have now instead? You have 30 total,
Including the 2.
but not 37. Okay, you take out that 7.
The holiday days count in the 30.
Count in the 30.
It's over after 2.
Yeah, but and you're still going to continue the 5 after, according to the Braita, because the Braita is saying that it doesn't break Shiva, it just pauses Shiva.
During
Only
the
the
first
3.
7, you mean? The first 7?
The first 2.
First 2 you sit.
Then you carry on 5 more days after the holiday.
So it pauses.
They carry 5 more after
Yeah,
the holiday.
according
Sitting?
to yes, according to the Braita, you pause Shiva, but you count 30.
It's a braita.
Okay, the Braita.
Is there a case where you ever do
following
more than
Pablo.
30 days? No.
Huh?
30. The most anyone could ever do is 30, regardless of when
No, but
you
he's
start,
saying
stop,
this-
pause.
You're only ever going to have 30 because
Right.
anyway you're
It's
not,
always
but because you're not doing the avelut then.
Right.
That's the halakha.
So so you'll still have 30 days of avelut of 30. The question is, how long will you be in the 30 days? You could be in the 30 days for 37 days.
That's what it's
So let me give you a simple case. The person passes away on day 1 of the holiday. How long is going to be, according to everybody, Shiloshim is going to be when?
starting that
After
day.
the
No,
holiday.
that day.
After the
Start after the holiday.
After the holiday.
No.
Oh, you wait
Yeah.
till the 7th start, and then
When will Shiva start? After the holiday.
and then-
When will Shloshim start? After that.
can't stop.
So Shiloshim is de facto not going to be over
Now you're 37
until
days.
37 days.
Yeah, but the
see?
Shiloshim starts later also.
That's my point. My point is, you'll never be sitting avelut of 30 more than 30. But your 30 days might not be over in 30 days. It could be up to 37 days. Okay. Etbe. Oh, we're done. Okay, so we're going to continue.
We're on
Where we at?
We're on 28-1.
28-1.
28-1.
Follow passed away on Pesach.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when we did the shloshim.
I got very
Do you know what? Actually, if we don't do 2 more minutes, it's going to take us 25 more minutes to begin the next class. Let's do 2 more minutes. Etbe. So Abaya now asks Rabbah. He says, the Braita says, Regel olelo leminyan sheloshim. The holiday counts for 30 days. Ketzad. The Braita says how? Another Braita. Okay? How? Where do you find that the regel could count towards 30 days? Moneh shiv'ah achar regel. If the person kavro b'tchilat regel, the person buries his dead in the festival on the holiday. Moneh shiv'ah achar regel. He counts 7 days after the holiday. Umelachto nasit al yedei acharim. Other people could do his work. And his servants and his maidservants could do work quietly in his house without the public seeing. And they don't give him condolence calls after the holiday because they gave him 7 days of condolence calls on the holiday itself. Okay? And the regel counts for him for the 30 days. So what do you see? Here, the person was passed away on the holiday, and still you see that the regel counts as 7 days for him. You see, not like Rabbah. The Gemara says Tiyufta. So you see, what we always say in halakha, this is where it comes from. This word, Tiyufta. He's refuted, Rabbah is refuted that if someone is passes away on the holiday, that you push the Shiva, the holiday days count towards the 30 days. Okay?
That would mean, but
So what does that mean? You have Shiva begins right after the holiday. Then how many more days after the holiday? 23 days.
So he said
That's
the
the
30
shloshim.
would start before the 7 days start. Is what he
Exactly.
said. That's crazy.
30 days. It's not crazy. Why is it not crazy? Because as we said, the 30-day laws you could do on the holiday.
Oh, you're saying it's easier.
Yeah, okay? Says the Gemara.
So it's still 30 holding to 30 total.
Yes. Ki ata Ravin Amar Rabbi Yochanan. When Ravin came, what does it mean he came? What does it mean he came? Came to where? Came to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was famous as a rabbi who was in Eretz Israel. Yeah. So when they came, he said over in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, he came to Bavel, and he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Afilu kevaro baregel, even if he buried the person on the regel. The halacha is that the days count towards the Shiloshim. V'chen orile Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Pedat bere. Rabbi Elazar told Rabbi Pedat as well, his son, Afilu kevaro baregel, even if he buried him on the regel, the halacha is also the same way, okay, with regards to counting towards the Shiloshim. Now, we said earlier that the regel interrupts the Shiva and breaks it, right? Only if the burial was 3 days before. Remember we said that? Mm-hmm. And we said, why 3 days? 3 days is the strictest halacha. Tana Rabbanan, we learned the Braita. If he did the overturning of the bed, now remember we said that this is something that we don't do now. They used to turn over the whole bed to illustrate that they were in mourning. Okay, but it was a sign of mourning. So he said, if a person fulfilled 3 days for the regel, he doesn't have to turn it over after the regel, because the festival, not only does it pause Shiva, it breaks Shiva. Even if he overturned the bed 1 day before the regel, even if he overturned the bed 1 hour before the regel, halacha is, once the holiday comes, the holiday breaks, not pauses. So this whole sugya, we're like, what? Stanna, shwaye, come to Chachamim. Chachamim tell us this is the halacha, even 1 day, even 1 hour. The Braita continues to now prove this halacha of 1 day, 1 hour. Okay? Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. These are the words of Bet Shammai and the words of Bet Hillel. Okay? Bet Shammai omrim sheloshayim. Bet Shammai says 3 days, right? Bet Hillel omrim afil yom echad. Bet Hillel was always, so these words are the words of Bet Shammai. One Braita that's telling you the halakha of 3 days. Who is that? That was a Braita that was written by the people of Bet Shammai. That's their psak halakha. The other Braita that tells you, Chachamim omrim afilu shah echad. Who's that? That's the opinion of Bet Hillel, and they were more lenient, as was almost always the case. Bet Hillel was more lenient, and that's why they got a check from Joey Cohen. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Huna, and the name Rav Chia bar Abba said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the Amri la, Amar lehu Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Some people say the other way around. Uda Rav Huna, and to Rav Huna, afilu yom echad, afilu shah echad. Rava Amar, halacha ketana didan de'amar shosha. Rava says halacha is like our Tana that says 3 days. But Rav Huna in the name of Rav Chia, in the name of Yochanan, or the other way around, they all say that it's 1 hour and 1 day. So Rava, we have a machloket Bet Shammai Bet Hillel. We have a machloket now Amoraim. Ravina ikla leSura de Pirat. He went to Surah on the Pirat, on the river that was Bavel by Euphrates River. Amale Rav Chaviva the Ravina said, Chavina the Ravina, Hilchetamai, what's the halacha? Amale afilu yom echad, afilu shah echad, even 1 hour, even 1 day. Dunsky. Now we have this opinion clearly stated, which tells us that it's even only 1 hour, only 1 day, and that's how we're ruling. By the way, where are we getting from? Remember, we have a machloket, Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel. How would we decide the halacha? Well, generally the halacha follows Bet Hillel. But for Rava, that clearly was not good enough, because Rava ruled like Bet Shammai.
But we go lenient on this situation.
Excellent. So now we have a machloket Rabbana, we have a machloket Amoraim.
Moving up the charts a little.
Because anyway, in Avelut, whenever we have a machloket, we go lenient. So you have a machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Rava. Who do you go with? The lenient opinion. Afilu sha'achat. Afilu yom echad. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. We are on 20A. 20A2.